Star Trek The Next Generation, Starfleet Academy Number 3, Survival. Chapter 7. The cadets had never had any reason for doing a tricorder survey of the inside of the generator building, but they certainly had one now. Mark McHenry moved carefully across the room, like an old-time water prospector with a divining rod. He was studying the tricorder readings carefully. The entire colony had been shut down and the generators turned off so as not to interfere. The key was to try to detect some sort of accelerated energy readings, because wherever those readings were coming from, that would be the hidden base. The others were watching him carefully. Not a word was being spoken, nor had one been breathed in the past 5 minutes. Finally, Mark nodded. "There's something around here, all right," he said slowly. "It's well shielded, but I think I've got a lock on it. Hold on." He made his way slowly through the room, holding his tricorder out in front of him like a shield. Finally, he stopped in front of the largest of the pulse generators. "Well," said Worf. McHenry pointed straight down to the base of the generator. There were low moans from the others. "You are joking," said Kalar. A frown creased McHenry's face. "I don't think I am. Did I say something that made you want to laugh?" Tanya rubbed her temples. "No, Mac, nothing." She looked to Worf. "Zach recently helped me move something like this, but it was about half the size of this one." Zach stepped forward, cracking his knuckles. He did each one separately, and each one made a sound like a cannon shot. And as he engaged in his rather pointless activity, he said confidently, "And I guess I will have to work twice as hard, won't I?" When the generators had first been installed, high-capacity haulers had been utilized to get things around. All such convenience devices, however, had been destroyed in the raid. This did nothing to deter Zach Kebron, however, who moved over to the huge cylindrical generator. "Are you certain you do not need assistance?" asked Worf. "Not a problem," said Zach with utter confidence. He stepped up to face the generator and wrapped his arms around it as far as they would go. He tried to lift it straight up and out of its receptacle. It did not budge. "Might I suggest leverage?" said Worf. Ideally, what he should have done at that moment was step forward and help, whether Zach wanted it or not, but he was keenly aware of the sense of pride that Zach felt in moments such as these. Zach Kebron wasn't simply interested in moving the generator. He also wanted to show that he was capable of doing it. Zach grunted once in acknowledgement and then turned around, presenting his back to the generator. He reached around, gripping it firmly, and tried to hoist it onto his back. There was the slightest groan of metal on metal, and then the generator started to move. Zach gritted his teeth. Now that he had gotten the thing moving, he did not want to do anything that might cause him to lose momentum. His body was trembling under the strain, his mouth clamped shut to prevent the slightest hint of exertion from escaping his lips. The generator moved a bit more and then more. Then he started to stagger. The generator began to slide out of his grasp. Worf started toward Zach to help brace him, but Kodash was already in motion. He came up to Zach's side and threw his full weight against the generator. It was just enough time for Zach to get a firmer grip on the generator. Kodash did not move away, but stayed next to him, helping him to steady it. Just to play it safe, Worf came up on the other side. This, as it turned out, was fortunate, because at that moment the generator started to teeter ever so slightly to the other side. With Worf there, however, it did not go far at all. They stood there for a moment, the Brickar acting as the main muscle, with the Klingons on either side acting as spotters and supplemental muscle. Zach glanced from one to the other, and then very grudgingly he muttered, "Thanks." "You are welcome," said Kodash diplomatically. Then he fired a look at Worf and seemed to say, "See, I can be polite when I have to be." It took another moment to make sure that the generator was steadied on Zach's back. Then the mighty Brickar took several steps forward. Worf and Kodash stayed to either side of him, making sure that the generator did not tumble off. The other cadets and Klingons wisely stepped back. No one wanted to be nearby should the entire thing come crashing down. "Careful," said Worf. "I'm being careful," grunted Zach. He started to bend at the knees and then eased the apparatus off his back. It hit the floor with a clang that reverberated throughout the room. "Excellent job, Zach," said Worf. Kodash wasn't quite as amiable, but nevertheless he nodded in grudging acknowledgement of an impressive display of strength. "Thank you," said Zach, and then he nodded deferentially in the direction of Kodash and repeated, "Thank you." Mark McHenry, meanwhile, wasted no time. He stepped into the area vacated by the generator and studied his tricorder readings. "Here," he said, "definitely right here." Beneath his feet was solid metal. Worf took a place next to him and said, "Are you sure?" "Positive. Absolutely positively sure about..." He paused and frowned. "About the hidden base?" Tanya prompted. Yes, absolutely sure. The hidden base is right here." He considered it a moment. "I guess we'll have to stop calling it a hidden base, huh? I mean, since we found it and all, we'll have to start calling it the found base." "You do that," said Worf. "Tanya, open it up." Tanya was ready, armed with a laser torch. She crouched down in the area Mac had indicated and activated the torch. She had it on the lowest possible setting because the last thing she wanted to do was risk slicing through something that they might need later on. She activated the torch. The pencil-thin beam lanced out, and she brought it down over the metal. There was a high-pitched whine as the beam sliced into the gleaming surface. Tanya moved it slowly, prepared to shut it off if there was something that provided the least amount of resistance. Nothing did, however. It slid through with no problem, and within minutes Tanya had created a circle in the metal, approximately 4 feet in diameter. More than enough room for anyone to get through, provided that there was anything for them to get through too. Worf stepped in with a crowbar and seconds later had levered a portion of the metal circle up. It only took him moments more to pry up the entire circle. He leaned over and looked down into the hole, as did the others. What they saw was a short drop of several feet to a small array of blinking lights, indicating a control panel of some sort. It was mounted on what appeared to be a large metal door that was inset flat into the ground. It was round and seamless. "That's it," breathed Tanya. "A phaser will make short work of it," Worf rumbled, but Selita was shaking her head. "That would not be advisable." "Why not?" he demanded. "Because," she said calmly, "there's every possibility that the hidden base..." "Found base," Mac corrected. She ignored him and continued. "Might have some sort of fail-safes built into it. If our means of entry is too violent, it could trigger some sort of self-destruct sequence. Then we would be left with nothing. Worse, if the self-destruct is sufficiently violent, we would be left in pieces." "So we must proceed with caution," said Worf. "Always advisable," Selita nodded. "Very well. Tanya!" "I'm already on it," she said. "Mac, give me the tricorder." "For good? Or is this just a loan?" he asked. "A loan." "Okay." He handed it to her, relieved by her assurances that he would be getting the tricorder back. Tanya leaned over the hole, adjusting the tricorder. "Okay, this should work," she said, tapping some controls on the tricorder. And seconds later it emitted a single high-pitched tone. Selita clapped her hands over her ears and took several steps back, finding the noise to be almost painful. Worf said, "What are you doing?" "I think I recognize the technology they've got in use here," said Tanya. "I can crack this. The tricorder is generating what's called a handshake signal. It's letting the lock know that another electronic device wants to interface with it. It's a method a tricorder uses to download and upload information from computer systems." "Are you getting anything?" Mac asked. "Not so far. Let me shift the frequency a hair." She made an adjustment. and there was a fractional change in the tone of the signal. When this didn't seem to generate a response, she tried again and again, and on the 5th wave frequency, she hit it. The lights on the doorway flickered to life. A series of high-pitched signals began to sound, and a burst of information shot through the tricorder. Reflexively, Worf braced himself against the possibility that he might be blown apart at any moment, but it didn't happen. Instead, after about 30 seconds, the sounds died down and Tanya shut off the tricorder. "Got it," she said. "The entry code?" "No," she admitted, "but I have the array of signals that they use as a means of encoding. It's like having to crack a combination lock that has 100 numbers on it, and you learn that all the numbers in the combination are actually between 1 and 10. You've still got your work cut out for you, but it's been whittled down quite a bit." "So now what?" asked Kalar. Tanya allowed herself to experience a moment of superiority to the Klingon female. It was a pleasant feeling. "Now," she said, "you give me about an hour to rig up a communicator and tie it in with the tricorder, then we might just have the opportunity to get off this rock."
"You can do it, Tanya," said Worf. "I have every confidence in you."
"Thank you, Worf. I appreciate that." Chapter 8.
"This is an insult," snarled Gower. "I should be included in this."
He was standing in the subspace transmission room, several feet away from the tied-up Bon. He was pointing at Bon and clearly quite angry.
"Why am I chosen to stand guard over him?" he demanded. "Get one of the Starfleet fools to do it. If there's potential danger within the base—"
"My greatest concern about potential danger," said Kalar, "is that the prisoner might escape. If that should come to pass, we would face no end of difficulty."
"I'm not going to escape," said Bon. "Where would I go?" "You hear?" Grouse said loudly. "He says he's not going to escape."
"And you believe him?" She shook her head. "Gower, of course you will try to escape."
"Have Kodesh watch him. Or yourself."
"Gower, I've designated this your job for one reason and one reason only." She clapped a hand on his shoulder. "I trust only you." He looked at her askance.
"What?"
"I do not give you this assignment lightly," she said. "If you wish to view it as some sort of busy work, I cannot stop you from doing so. In my view, however, I am simply giving an important job to someone whom I feel can do it. Now, is that acceptable to you, or not?" Gower sighed, knowing that he had been outmaneuvered.
"Whatever you say, Keeler."
"Good," she said. She headed for the door, stopped, and said once more, "We are counting on you, Gower."
Yes, he replied, waving dismissively. "I shall attend to it."
In the moment that Gower's back was turned, Bon returned to what he had been doing before. Namely, he applied slow, steady pressure to his bonds, stretching the molecules apart, little by little, getting a bit of slack into his restraints, waiting for the right opportunity to make his move.